Welcome back to the House of Legends, where great women become exceptional. I am your host, Graciela, and in today's episode, we have one of the most amazing women in the industry. I will say that she's not only a business coach, she's a mother, she's a expander, creator. I would love to introduce to you to Emily Wilson. Emily, if you can introduce yourself, and we're gonna dive into this specific and amazing, and I know many of you ladies will appreciate topic of money in the hands of conscious women.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily June Wilcox. I am a wealth and business coach. I am now a number one best-selling author, which feels amazing. And it's really my mission to help heart-centered humans, especially women, to heal their money wounds, make more profits and wealth through their business, and then build out passive income so they can experience more time freedom and more financial freedom. And I really believe that these things together start creating new paradigm wealth, and it changes the frequency of our planet when we have more people who are building wealth through their contribution to society, their soul mission, their gifts, their passion, their self actualization. We will see a shift in the entire planet and in ways that we can quantify and imagine and in ways that we can't. But, when the more of us that become free, we set others free and we create new microeconomies and absolutely change what it means to be living life on this planet.
Yeah, you mentioned so many good points. I would love to highlight some of them. One of them, you said that we changed the frequency, and it's totally, totally lands because when we are in survival, when we are in business, and we want people to join us, we want the people to buy from us, people can feel that neediness. Even
Yeah.
if we have the best intention, I think one of the things that I was explaining to one of my clients is when we have coming from that energy, people feel that we have an amazing product, but they also feel that I need you energy, and that is
Yeah.
when things don't work. But when we allow ourselves, because I think, and you know about it, you're the expert here, but um when it comes to becoming that or receiving more money, it's about becoming that container and allowing ourselves to receive. And
Yeah.
right there is when it comes to do the inner work, where each is about healing the wounds that has most of the times, and I was mentioning to you, this has nothing to do with money in itself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. And you think about money, and our unconscious mind
Mm.
really links it to survival
Yeah.
because money is often the substitute for food or for shelter and these things that we actually do need to survive, right? We think, well, we have to have money in order to pay for these things. And so then you know, in our mind, the way that we're interpreting our financial position, our ability to earn, it becomes processed through mind and body as a life or death situation.
Mm.
And when you look at the way that we're biologically hardwired, when we're faced with a life or death situation, right? If we're being chased by a lion, what happens? Um, Breath starts increasing so that we can take in more oxygen. Heart starts pumping faster. Blood starts flowing to the extremities so that we can run faster. And all of those things are really great things to have happen if you're being chased by a lion, right? Um, you're not very funny in those moments. You're not really very interested in pleasure or passion in those moments. Um, but you're very single-mindedly focused on surviving
I
and
mean,
outrunning lion. And so that's great in certain circumstances, but very few because you know, knock on wood, like I've never been chased by a wild animal in this lifetime. And yet those same physiological responses are being activated in some of our transactions with money, and then
Yeah.
it's not very helpful. If I'm considering uh a way to earn a living, and all of a sudden I'm breathing faster, heart is pumping faster, more blood is flowing away from my brain to my extremities. Well, now I can't think as well. I
Yeah.
can't bring in logic. I can't use creativity. I can't tap into my intuition. And so just what you mentioned about survival mode, even just getting out of survival. And then, of course, there's so much more beyond that, but that's a massive transformation. And when we can change the way that we're interacting with money so that that whole thing isn't happening, well, our chances of actually earning a good living and building more wealth and making really great decisions around money increases tremendously.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, that is one of the first levels. And I would love if you can mention what are the I I think there are more layers
Yeah,
when it comes to money, and I think it's really important to have this conversation specifically in this not only that because are the last 3 months of the year, but also because we have in an upcoming year where as a woman that we are having our own businesses, we have the opportunity to really not only creating amazing things, but we have this opportunity to serve more people if we truly get to work in this part of mindset, or not only
yeah,
mindset, because I think also we bring body as well. But when we and I don't know what word I is the more current to use here, like conquering, aligning, embody this part, things get to look in a different way. I mean, I have to speak just for my case, going from really survival to having that, like, I can describe it like just a relief of like knowing that it's, money is always coming is a huge thing. The
yeah.
creativity, the way that you show up with no neediness, actually with this excitement of help people, it changed like that day and night.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is so I'm looking at my book right now, which is called Wounds to Wealth. And
Oh my God.
one of the things I put in the book is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And, Maslow was like a psychologist and a researcher. And he, I think, put it together so beautifully. And it's in this diagram where there's like a pyramid, right? And so the base layer is physiological needs: food, water, warmth, rest. And one level above that is safety needs, so security and safety. And those two together, when we don't have those, we're very much in survival mode. If you didn't have enough food to eat, you wouldn't be recording this podcast with me right now. And if I didn't feel safe, I wouldn't be jumping on Zoom and recording a podcast with you, right? So there's no opportunity to go beyond those levels until they're taken care of, right? But that doesn't stop there. So when we go higher, there's belongingness and love needs. So intimate relationships, friends. Then there's esteem needs, prestige, and feeling of accomplishment. And then the top of the pyramid is self actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. And so
Mm,
it's like as we go up, all of a sudden we're focused more on community, on
yeah.
serving others, on fulfilling our own potential, making sure that that intuitive part of us that knows that we chose to be here and be human for a reason, we're checking in like, are we doing it? Are we on track? Are we making the impact that we want to make? And we talked about frequency, and it's like it's a ladder, and you're going up these rungs to higher and higher frequencies to where my needs are taken care of. So I'm not having to think about myself in this moment. I get to think about you. I get to think about community. I get to think about my state, my country, my planet. How can other people benefit from this thing that I have to offer?
Yeah, yeah, that's so powerful. And well, I'm gonna make sure that we're gonna put your link or of the book on the comments.
Thank
Because
you.
I truly, even for myself, I'm just because we do require to have this. I don't even just call it more knowledge, but we do require to have this code really deep integrated into ourselves. And one of the points that really caught my attention was the self actualization. And right
Yeah.
there, when actually you know yourself, you know that
Yeah.
everything that you see out there is part of you, including money, and you don't put, I think, any meaning. You see it as just another tool. You see it as, and I'm gonna use this analogy, and I know sometimes, even for myself, like we'll say a year and a half ago, it was like I was understanding this at intellectual, but I was not feeling it, like kind of. Money is like, it's like reading. It's like you're not like you're breathing and you're trusting that it's always coming. You're not trusting that it's you're not try to breathe all at once. You're just it's this deep trust, and all comes back when you know yourself. All comes
Yeah.
back to deeply understanding and working in ourselves. And this also gets to reflect that, like we mentioned before, in our business and in the way that we show up. Even right now, where you get to share your book, you're sharing your book. You're not like running, or you're not like feeling, like you mentioned, you feel safe to share this, you feel safe to
Yeah.
create. And I think we do require, and like I said before, I don't know if that is a good way to utilize that word, more women in this state, more women in this vibrational state, where they don't worry about if they're gonna make it for the bills next month, or if the
Right.
business survive, or if we launch something and just keeping like how many people are signing up, or if we put something out there, we just do because it's part of who we are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's exciting to think about this transformation, and I loved how you talk about money being neutral. And the truth is, for many of us, um, money hasn't felt neutral. And when we have undiagnosed and unhealed money wounds, there often is a negative charge or a negative feeling around money, at least in certain aspects. So, um, in my book, I talk about this. There's 6 core money wounds. And so, you might feel like money is inherently bad. You might feel like you're inherently bad with it, or
Oh
that
God.
it's hard to get, or that it's always leaving you, or that you're not safe until you have it, or that you're not worthy of it. And when we heal those money wounds, that's when we can get to a place of more neutrality, where we can recognize that money is just a tool, and it's not that different than oxygen. If I found out that you were taking double the breaths every minute that I was, you
It's
know,
not
I'm not going to be like, that
okay.
greedy little Graciela, like, how dare she take double the breath? She's using all the oxygen. No, because I know oxygen's abundant. I don't
Mm,
have any feeling one way or the other about how many breaths someone needs to take. And
yeah,
that's neutrality. That's what it feels like to be neutral. And
yeah,
when we can get there with money, that's massive. And then from there, we can add some positive meaning. But I think a mistake that many people make is they try to flip from negative to positive without passing through neutral. And neutral is a really important way station
yeah.
along the way of adding positive meaning to your relationship with money.
Yeah, while you were sharing that, it came to my mind this analogy of, and I think you're familiar with her teachings. Abraham Hicks says,
Yes.
when we gather momentum in one way or another, it has momentum. It's like having a train 100 miles per hour going west, and you want to redirect that same train to the opposite way. it
Yeah.
could it could happen, but it's gonna be hard on the train, it's gonna be hard on every single aspect. But when you're smooth, when you're like stop momentum little by little, you're gonna find this balance, if we can call it that way, or this neutral part when you can start, like you mentioned, getting positive aspects and getting momentum in a different way. But here's the thing, and one of the things that I just gonna speak for my personal journey. Sometimes it's easy to hear this, but it's when we get to apply it and we don't see the bank account or bills are coming up. Sometimes it's like how I'm gonna feel blessed, how I'm gonna feel good, how if I do have the situation in front of me. And right
Yeah.
there, when we consciously we have to decide to close that gap, because if literally, here's the one of the keys, and I would love for you to dive into a little bit more. We can close the emotional gap right now. Maybe by tomorrow 100K or 50K or 20K or 5K, whatever the amount, is not going to appear in your bank account, but you can close the emotional
Yeah.
gap today. But sometimes we said that is, I want the money, I want the physical manifestation, but if we don't close that gap, if we don't feel neutral, if we don't feel like it's coming, if we don't feel like it's working, we are in the resistance, and we're also getting momentum in the wrong way. If we call
Yeah.
it, we can put labels right here, right? So I would love for you if you can extend a little bit more here.
Yeah. What we focus on expands. And
Yeah,
so when we take in evidence of something that we don't really want to be true, even
yeah,
if it is true in this moment. So you use the example of a bank account balance.
yeah.
We're not we're not telling you to change that fact, like to, you know, say that that's a lie and that's not how much money is in your account, but soften your focus, zoom out, distract yourself. And it does not have to be related to this one thing. Again, this is where I think people get it wrong and they make it harder on themselves. So they think like, "Oh my gosh, I only have, $100 in my bank account. So I really need to spend all this time visualizing it being, 1,000 or 10,000."
Mm,
Maybe, maybe that will work for you, but sometimes staying on the same topic that has a lot of fear and anxiety wrapped up in it, it's very difficult, like
it
you
is.
said, to get that train going in a different direction.
Yeah.
And rather, it would be better to just shift your focus to something that feels more abundant or you just naturally already have more appreciation for. I look at my kids and I'm like, there are people out there that would give anything to
To
have
have.
children. And I have two healthy children. They're vibrant, they're funny, they're smart. Like we have this beautiful relationship. Just right there, I shifted my focus away from something that was causing anxiety and towards something that naturally causes appreciation. It's like if you just make those micro movements throughout the day, you will shift your point of attraction and
Yeah.
your bank account will catch up with the vibration of appreciation. You just have to stop focusing on the absence of what you want long enough to let it get to you.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that is the if we can call a quote unquote hard work, because it's the facts are so here,
Yeah.
but when we realize that this is a work, and I can choose where I can redirect my thought, my attention, things get to move. But it's also something that we have to do consciously, or we get to choose consciously, and it's not going to happen in 1 second or in one day. But like you mentioned before, it's going to catch up. It's going
Yeah.
to catch up one way or another. But I will love for you, Emily, if we when we talk about healing of money wounds, what if someone comes to you, what is the first step? What is the first thing that you ask her or ask him in order to assess where they are? Because you mentioned about six different wounds.
Yeah. Mahatma Gandhi says that a good diagnosis is
Mm,
three-fourths the remedy.
yeah.
And I wholeheartedly believe that. We often lump money stuff together. We call it money mindset and we put it all in the same bucket. And it's a little difficult actually when we do that because we're lumping things that are actually not that similar. Yeah, they all relate to money, but the symptoms of them and the way that they're playing out in your life are wildly different. And we're putting it all in the same bucket. It would be like, you know, we're putting forks and knives and spoons all together. Yeah, they're all silverware. Like, I get it. But if we put
Yeah.
them all in the same bucket and then you reach in for a spoon, you might get cut by a knife, like they're not the same tool. And so I really believe that the first step is getting a good diagnosis. And that's why I created the Money Wounds quiz. You can go to moneywoundsquiz.com and take it for free. And you'll learn what your strongest money wounds are. And you'll
Mm,
start to understand some of the symptoms and how it's been playing out in your life. And then, I connect you with lots of resources to start going down the healing path. But if you don't have that, you know, it's no different than a physical ailment. If
yeah.
I just have a bunch of mystery symptoms where it's like, I have this weird shooting pain in my left heel and and my left shoulder isn't working quite right. If I can't get a doctor to tell me what's actually wrong, what are the chances that that heals?
Mm,
Then I'm just trying things. I'm just throwing solutions at the wall. Well, let
yeah.
me just try rest. Let me just try icing it. Let me just try this. Let me try that. But it's guessing. As soon
Yeah.
as you have a diagnosis, what happens? You learn more about what's actually wrong. You understand why you're experiencing the symptoms that you are. And then there's a path for healing. There's
Mm,
there's something to move toward to get you better. And so that's what we do by diagnosing the money wounds first.
I think that is so important, understanding where we are. And like you mentioned before, if we only have the symptoms and we don't like, we're just guessing, there's no point because we're guessing, we are not assessing really what is going on. And that is one of the things that I love about your life work, that it really goes deep. I think I mentioned to you before that many of our, and I don't know if you will agree here, many of our money wounds has nothing to do with money itself.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's with an experience that we have when we were childs, or when of we saw someone in our family experiencing some situation, and we uh, borrow that situation as our situation unconsciously, of course. So if you can extend a little bit more here and how we can start to understanding and actually looking for help, because this affects every single area, not only creativity wise, business wise, but everything. From the water, brand of water that you get to buy, to the car of that you get to drive, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. The root cause of each money wound, it has nothing to do with money.
Mhm.
There's 6 money wounds. They each have their own root cause, and it's
Yeah.
important to understand what that is because that helps us give the unique medicine to it, but it's never money. Money is just always sort of weaponized against this thing, or we're projecting this issue or this belief onto money. And then of course, we have a part of our brain called the reticular activating system, which is like our brain's filter. And what that does is it puts things either in like the useful, helpful, pay attention to this pile, or the we can ignore this pile.
Yeah.
And it's needed, right? Because our brain takes in so many inputs throughout the day every day. But what happens when we have unhealed money wounds is that the things that don't fit our belief system
Mm,
literally get filtered out and put in the this doesn't have value, you can forget about this pile. And it's as though we never even heard it.
Mm,
And and that really limits us. I was hosting a party for my daughter's softball team, and it was a hair braiding party because they were going to have this tournament, and we were weaving in this like fake neon green hair that matched their uniforms, and it was so fun. And so this other mom and I were working on, braiding the hair while all the other girls are just jumping in and out of the pool and playing. And she told me that she's a realtor and that she had to leave in like an hour to go show a home. And she said, I don't normally show houses on like Friday nights, but this is a really good client of mine. And she actually just got a $5 million bonus from work. And so she wants to buy another house. And I'm like, wait, she got a $5 million bonus at work? Like, what kind of work does she do? And she said, she's a partner at a law firm. And I could feel like tingles through my whole body, not because I want to become a lawyer, but I had never heard of anyone getting a $5 million bonus from work. And so I loved that in the past, my brain might have even filtered that out. As crazy as that sounds, I might have overheard that in a coffee shop or something and literally not even absorbed it. And yet
mm.
now my brain pays attention to that and absorbs it and is curious and leans in and puts it in the useful pile.
Mm.
And
That is
and it becomes a wealth expander. Like here we are having this conversation, which means that lots of people listening get to be expanded. And I'm guessing that probably a lot of us up until this very moment have never heard of someone getting a $5 million bonus at work.
first
But
time.
how cool is that to know that that is possible and that's happening? And then this woman is like investing it into real estate. Like, how, talk about just like some wealth mindset moves. But my point is, when we have unhealed money wounds and we are projecting limiting beliefs and
Mm.
negative thoughts and feelings onto our relationship with money, not only does that limit us in the ways that we're transacting with money, but it also completely cuts off any evidence that it could be a different way.
Oh God, that is so powerful. Can you repeat that again? Because, oh God, sometimes we have the opportunity. So people that I do have an experience that with a client that she said, well, last year, whatever, it was like a year and something changed. I wanted to just come with you and like buy a program that I was offering back then, but something was not clicking yet. And I was like, I was not fully open to receive back then. I was like you mentioned, I was maybe overhearing or like just over analyzing or not fully paying attention to that area. Like,
Yeah.
and that is so powerful.
Yeah, exactly. So it's when we miss evidence that it could be a different way.
Mm.
And so yeah, like in this example, if you had an unhealed hard money wound, and so in your mind, effort equaled income and people had to work hard for money. Well,
Mm.
what is mind looking for and absorbing all day? The evidence that that is true, right? So your brain will naturally absorb the cashier at the grocery store talking about, like, oh, I don't get off my shift until whatever time. Anything that feels like it's in alignment with effort equals income, and you're having to put in time and you're having to kind of slog through in order to make money. And
Mm.
what does brain filter out? The $5 million bonus. Because that
God,
would feel way too much like easy money. It just doesn't even make sense with the paradigm that you have to just work so hard for it. And so we want to open ourselves up so that we can see new evidence and start to retrain ourselves that it doesn't have to be the way that it was.
yeah, I would love to highlight 2 points. Oh God, this is so powerful. What you mentioned about the 5 million, I'm even like you said, pausing like your bonus. sometimes we don't even have access to those conversations or interactions because we're not even close to be a vibrational match even to listen to
Yeah.
that. Or even if the conversation is here, let's say in the living room, we are in the drive-through, whatever. It's not
Yeah.
even a vibrational match to that. But another important thing that you mentioned here, when we start looking, when we have this like proof of someone is doing that, someone is experiencing that, we're not only expanding into that reality, we're exposing ourselves, but we also start to changing this narrative of it has to be this way, it has to be that way. I would love for you, Emily, if you can extend how we can start not only expanding more and to be through books, through mentors, but how we can start changing our expectation, because I think expectation is also key. We can have the knowledge, we can start um, healing our wounds, but how we can start shifting our expectation and actually looking not only and this is one of the things that our mind or brain does without even us paying full attention, right, looking for evidence, but how we can start changing and shifting our story and our expectation.
Mm, yeah, I love this question. So here's what I would recommend. Um, Take one of your beliefs around money that you kind of already know is not that helpful.
Okay.
So it could be that
I
some
have to.
rich people are greedy,
Yeah.
like pick something, whatever it is. I couldn't charge high rates. Money has to be hard, whatever, pick something. And so, right, you can write it down and then say, is this universally true? Because in order for something to be universally true, it means that you can't even find one instance where it's not true, right? So if I wrote down rich people are greedy, is it universally true? Can I find even one rich person that I don't think is greedy?
Of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can, right? And this might be it's a good exercise to actually look for it. So you might naturally be able to come up with like, okay, I can think of, 3 people. Well, let's find some more. Look up the people who have taken that billionaires pledge where they're pledging to give away 90% of their wealth to charitable organizations. Look who's on that list. Start researching like their philanthropy and really build some new evidence. Okay. So that's the first 2 steps. Writing down the limiting belief, is it universally true? Collecting some evidence that it's not, right? And then you mentioned expectation. So how do we start to create that? And so then you say like, okay, so if this belief doesn't have to be true, meaning it doesn't have to
Mm,
be true for me, what would be
true.
what could be true, right? What would I like to be true? So going on this example, I might say, rich people are generous.
Hmm.
Okay. So that's what I want to be true for me. And I know that it's possible because I've already disproven that my first
Yeah.
belief is universally true. It's true. Of course, it's true. Yeah, there's some rich people that are greedy, but we also know there are some rich people that aren't. So it's not universally
Yeah.
true. So now I've written down rich people are generous. And then I say, okay, like, what would that look like for me to be rich and generous? And how can I find some evidence of
Oh.
that in my own life? Can I
Mm.
write down sometimes where I've been really generous? And and then that creates expectancy because now mind is keyed differently and is starting to look for what you've asked it to look for.
Mm.
Evidence of my generosity, evidence that money flowing to me is good because I do good things with it. And
Yeah.
then you build on that because now, going back to Abraham Hicks's analogy of this train that's moving in a direction, Now we're starting to build some momentum. We've got a train that's moving in the direction toward wealth building generosity. And we've started to collect some evidence of that. And that momentum will pick up if we allow it to, and mind will start to expect and look for more evidence to build in that direction.
Oh, I just love it so much. And I know that listeners will really appreciate this exercise because it's something that it sounds so simple. And like you said, it shifts the vibration, it shifts the expectation, and it's something that we can do it at any time.
Yeah.
And going back also to Abraham Hicks, I think and she mentioned in some of the books, only 68 seconds. When I remember when I focus on something that is not working, or I wake up and the shower is really cold, and then I'm starting focusing on what is not working, then my car is like really, really cold, and my kids are not waking up. So it's like a little chain of
Yeah.
incidents, but I'm creating those. But we can actually, with the exercise and being conscious about, hey, about the things that we believe to be true, and asking ourselves the question that you gave us, is this a universal truth? It's not. Okay, what I will love, or looking for evidences for the positive, and then writing down what do we want to be true for that in our experience. It gets momentum, and it don't
Yeah.
have to be longer, like it's like a minute. The
Yeah.
Even when we remember something really amazing, and we just stay right there for a couple of seconds, more than a minute, immediately we remember another experience that is a similar thing. So, and I think we can utilize this in advance when it comes to money as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, this is also powerful. Emily, I would love to know right here, before we wrap up our podcast, that by the way, this is this conversation, it's a goal. I have to say that. I think like many women will really appreciate this. And like I think we mentioned this in the first minutes of this podcast episode, not only because are the last few months of the year, and we can actually start gathering momentum in the other wave and enter into 2025 with a new renewed energy. And we won't have to wait until the 31st, like
Yeah.
well, there's many traditions, right? But we can start doing this now. I would love to know if aside of your book, what are the other ways that people can interact with your life work?
Yeah. So come hang out with me on social at M Makes Money, or you can search my name, Emily June Wilcox. I'm pretty active on Facebook and Instagram and other channels as well. Um, EmilyWilcox.com is my website. It has a link to the Money Wounds quiz. Um, the book is called Wounds to Wealth, and it's available on Amazon as an ebook, a paperback, and an audiobook.
Oh my
Um,
God. I will buy the audio. I have to say it here.
Yeah,
Go
yeah. People love it, so many people love audiobooks. I do too, especially for
on the go,
like
on the team, like, yeah.
yeah, for learning. And I narrate it so that I really set the intention of transmitting healing codes
Mm,
and transformation through my voice. And so there's like a lot of energetic intention that was put into the audiobook as well. And I have a free money healing workshop as well. So when you take the money wounds quiz, um, you can take the free healing workshop. So lots and lots of resources to get plugged into this work, to get a diagnosis, and to start healing your money wounds. And then for women that are already making multi six figures and wanting to scale to seven and walk the joyous path to millions, that's why I
mm,
work with women in masterminds and one on ones.
I love that so much. I think one of the things that I mentioned to you before, that I always ask my guests, what is their superpower? And I would love to ask you again, what is your superpower, Emily?
Ooh, I, my superpower is probably my intuition. You
Mm,
know, for years and years, I made decisions based on external factors, and
yeah.
I really didn't know how I felt.
Mm,
And I probably was being divinely guided, but I wasn't really tapped into that. And I've spent years now cultivating that inner relationship so that I can feel it for myself. And it is such a superpower because it cuts through the noise. There are
Yes.
so many decisions that if we were to write a pros and cons list, it would be similar. There wouldn't be a real clear answer whether you do A or B, but intuition will guide you. And
Mm,
intuition will show you like what feels more alive, what feels correct in your body. And it really is a superpower, I think, especially for women. And it's part of the reason that, our power was stripped from us because uh, people recognized that a woman who's free, who's in touch with herself, and
mm,
is being internally guided, well, she can't be controlled, right? Which
yeah.
some people don't like. But when we activate that superpower, man, like we can absolutely change the world. And there's nothing like an empowered woman who's on a mission.
I love and adore so much that power, and by you, I love even more that you recognizing that. Like, yeah, you know what, my intuition is my superpower, and I think you mentioned this point as well that sometimes the mind tries to protect us. I'm not gonna say to self sabotage because we don't want to sabotage ourselves, but it tries to protect ourselves from things. But when we are in touch with our intuition, when that inner knowingness, when we feel it's like a little whisper, I will say, because sometimes it's not in the whole body, it's not in
Yeah.
the gut, it's a knowingness of yes or not. When we exercise, I will say, that muscle, and we get the feedback, like you mentioned before, there could be 20 odds, 20,000 odds, 20,000 obstacles, but when we understand and navigate our intuition, we make decisions in a way that is so aligned, and we
Yeah.
find ourselves trusting even our decisions or moves, and we're not looking for external. In even if we have a partner or we have someone that we love, we can get an opinion, but at the final of the day, we are the ones that we trust ourselves. So I think that is
Yeah.
so beautiful, and especially as a woman that we are leading businesses and helping other women, be having a mentor or coach or being around someone that is leading a mastermind, or working one-on-one, working with a woman that trusts her intuition, I think it's just priceless.
Mm, amen.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you so much, all of you, for this interaction. I think many of the women that are listening to this podcast are gonna just play again, replay, because it was really not only a conversation, but I do truly believe that this could change the direction of so many lives if they choose to. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next week.
Thank you.